Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going over an article by Fox 5, which is based out of Atlanta, which talks about a hint that Governor Brian Kemp has made about a 2026 possible Senate race against Democratic incumbent Jon Ossoff. The article begins by saying Republican Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia is well aware that plenty of people are waiting for his decision on whether to run for the Senate next year. The popular term-limited conservative governor is the GOP's dream candidate to take on Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff, who is considered vulnerable, and in the key southeastern battleground state as Republicans aim to expand their 53-47 Senate majority in the 2026 midterm elections. Here's what they're saying. We need to flip that seat. We should have a Republican in that seat, and I believe we will have one after the 2026 election, Kemp said in a Fox News Digital interview last week. Kemp isn't ready to make an announcement, emphasizing that he's really got a lot on my plate right now. That's what Kemp said. I'm in the middle of my own legislative session. We got a big tort reform fight going on. I'm chairing the Republican Governors Association and made a commitment on that, he added. But the governor acknowledged that, quote, I know I can't keep holding out forever, so we'll have something to say on that down the road. Georgia's legislative session is scheduled to adjourn on April 4th. Senator Tim Scott, the chair of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, which is the Senate GOP's campaign arm, has said that Kemp is a top recruit and he hopes that the governor will run. And recent partisan polling in Georgia indicated Kemp topping Ossoff in a hypothetical matchup. But the NRSC is confident of flipping the seat in Georgia even if Kemp decides to take a pass on a run in 2026. Among the Republicans who've expressed interest in a run for the Senate seat in Georgia if Kemp opts out are Representatives Buddy Carter, Rich McCormick, Mike Collins, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a top ally of President Donald Trump, and a political rock star in the far right with a very large national profile, along with State Insurance Commissioner John King. Kemp was interviewed as he chaired the Republican Governor Association winter meeting in Washington, D.C. The governor, who's been steering the RGA for 3 months, emphasized his frenetic schedule to fundraise and recruit candidates. Doing a lot of stuff in Florida, Texas, been to California, will be traveling to help other governors, but also just in D.C., continuing to work hard to raise money really all across the board, he said. And Kemp said he's aiming to really grow the organization, grow the donor base, and make people understand why it's so important to have Republican governors, because we are the incubators of democracy. We're the ones that are implementing a lot of these new and efficient things that we're doing that then may filter out to another state, and then another state after that. Republicans held on to their 27-23 gubernatorial advantage in the 2024 elections, thanks in part to the efforts of the RGA. Looking ahead, New Jersey and Virginia are the only two states to hold governor elections this year, giving them outsized national attention and making them key barometers for the mood of Americans during the start of a new presidential term. A competitive GOP primary is underway in blue state New Jersey, where Republicans hope to win a gubernatorial election for the first time in a dozen years. And in Virginia, GOP Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears is aiming to succeed term-limited Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin. Virginia can only serve 4 years as governor. They cannot run for consecutive terms, and make history as the state's first woman governor and the nation's first black female governor. Next year, 36 states will hold gubernatorial elections, pointing to the 2-year cycle. Kemp said, there's a lot of work to do, but we are right on the ideas, and we just have to get the money and fundamentals to be able to have a playbook and a plan in all these races to make sure we continue to have great Republican governors that are elected around the country. So this update by Brian Kemp, which it sets the stakes of this race. He says that he knows he has to make a decision soon, but he has a lot going on right now, so we don't really know when he's going to announce. But I do think that date of April 4th is a very significant date. That's when the legislative session ends, and I think April 4th may be a potential barometer for when we may get some sort of announcement by Brian Kemp, or maybe a further update around April 4th. Kemp may have, I don't know if this was deliberately or accidentally, but he's kind of set up a potential buffering zone between now and April 4th of what he is going to do, and I think that's a very important date to monitor. As for the Georgia Senate race itself, it's no secret, looking at the 2026 Senate map, that Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff is probably the Republicans' best pickup opportunity on the 2026 map. Right now, I have 3 races listed as toss-up, and I also have another one in New Hampshire as a lean Democrat, and another in Maine as lean Republican. Georgia right now is the seat that's currently held by a Democrat, that I think gives the Republicans the best chance at flipping. It is possible you can make the argument for Michigan, but I do think Republicans have a better chance in Georgia. And Brian Kemp being at the top of the ticket is a huge reason why. In the early polling that's been done in a general election of Jon Ossoff versus Brian Kemp, they have been internal polls on the Republican side of things, but Kemp has led in both of those polls, one by 3 points and one by 6 points. And the margin of errors for one of them was right inside of it, the other one was just outside. But it shows a very close race that Kemp is narrowly leading. Every other poll that's been done with Ossoff so far shows Ossoff, even though there's a lot of undecided vote remaining, leading in that race and likely to hold on in a very, very close margin. And I think it needs to be remembered just how close these elections with Jon Ossoff really were. We go back to 2020, where Jon Ossoff defeated David Perdue in the runoff election by just 1.2%. So it was an incredibly, incredibly close race. In 2026 in Georgia will once again be an incredibly, incredibly close race. But right now, of all the potential Republican candidates, I think Brian Kemp certainly gives the Republicans the best chance to win. And so much so that I would go as far and say this. In the 2026 Senate map, I think if Brian Kemp is the Republican nominee, I think he wins in a lean Republican margin, which means he wins in between 1% margin of victory and 5% margin of victory. I think he would probably win closer to around that 3 to 3.5% number is where I would have Kemp running. If Kemp does not run and it's another Republican running for this race, I actually have Georgia staying Democrat as tilt Democrat. That's where I think the stakes are for the Republicans in the state of Georgia. And we did see a very, very close election in the 2024 presidential election. Georgia, which voted for Donald Trump 51% to 49% over Kamala Harris, was a very, very close race. And in 2026, typically midterms are a repudiation on the current president's party, which means that the Democrats should be favored for a good night in 2026. That's all obviously very contingent on how the Trump administration is viewed in 2026, but the Democrats on that point do start off with the early advantage. The good news, though, for the Republicans is Georgia did vote for Donald Trump in 2024 after voting for Biden in 2020. But it's going to be a very, very close race, especially in the surrounding Atlanta counties and Atlanta itself. So Republicans are going to have to fight really hard to win this 2026 Georgia Senate race. And a lot of that begins with recruiting the right candidate to run for the race, which Republicans had trouble doing in 2022 when Herschel Walker was the nominee and lost a close race against Raphael Warnock by 2.8%. Incumbent Senator David Perdue lost his race by 1.2%, and Kelly Loeffler, the Republican, lost her race by 2.1%. So getting the right candidate to run for this race is very, very important. And if you remember, that's actually what cost a lot of Republicans in 2022 in the midterm elections, was not having the right candidates running in those races. Brian Kemp, being the Republican candidate in Georgia, is probably the best candidate recruit the Republicans have for 2026. So him running or not running is a very, very big deal for if this race will go red or blue or not. Brian Kemp already has received the endorsement of Tim Scott and U.S. Representative Mike Collins and a local official, Eric Erickson, the former Macomb City Councilor. Inside Elections, Cook Photo Report, and Sabados Crystal Ball all have this race listed as a toss-up, and I think everyone in the political elections world is really just waiting for what Brian Kemp is going to do, because I think that drastically impacts how this race is going to be listed. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like. Remember to click subscribe and leave a comment below. I post a new video every single day, so you're not going to want to miss those. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you in a future video. That will do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a like. And if you really liked it, please remember to click the subscribe button. And make sure you turn post notifications on so you always get notified when I post a new video. That way you never miss one. Also, please remember to share this video with your friends and family if you really, really, really like the video. And remember to stay tuned, because I'll be posting at least one video every single day leading up until Election Day. So I'd really appreciate it if you keep coming back and watching those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.